Hey, how you doing? A little while ago, I made a very honest review video on the Lava Me 4, a smart carbon fiber plastic blend acoustic guitar with what I felt like was too many features for its own good. Many really cool and useful ones, but also many that sort of just seemed like extra selling points that only bloated the thing and impacted usability. And I said all this very openly in the video, and something I noticed after uploading it was that the feedback in the comments was overwhelmingly negative towards the guitar, as well as all of the positive things about it that I pointed out. I personally quite liked it, and the only reason I no longer have it is because I traded it in with someone locally for this Brian May Red Special guitar here, since I've always wanted to make a video about these and I really didn't want to buy one for it. Gotta keep the content flowing after all. Another factor was also that I just don't enjoy playing acoustic guitars of any kind very much. My hands are used to 9-gauge strings in E-flat standard on an electric with low action, so in comparison to that, any acoustic just feels like strumming bridge cables with a half-inch action. And so when Lava recently approached me about their more recent model, the Lava Me Air, I was hesitant to even say yes because you guys seem to complain about the products that they put out, and I don't love recording demo tracks on an acoustic. And I told them this very transparently, and they said, just take a look. And actually looking into the guitar made me realize that they took the information from what online comments said, what customer reviews said, and what professional reviewers like me said, I do this for a living after all, and applied it to the R&D process for the next model. So, I had them send one out as a loaner, which I will send back in a few days. Full disclosure, as always, I am being paid for this video, but all thoughts and opinions are my own. I do not shy away from criticism, and no guitar company has an advertising budget big enough to make me lie to my own audience. Well, maybe PRS does, but they're already spending all that money on Music as Wins channel. So, specs first. What makes this different from the previous model? Because just from a head-on shot here, you probably can't really tell too big of a difference. But the first thing you notice when holding it, something you would notice even with your eyes closed, is how much thinner it is. I don't have the Mi 4 here anymore for direct reference, but I would say this is about 65 to 70% of the thickness of its predecessors, which is a huge difference. One of the main complaints I heard about the Mi 4 and all previous generations of Lava acoustic guitars, and a complaint that I actually made myself as well, is that they are very thick, very round on the edges, and have a very smooth and slick satin finish. And all three of those things come together to make a guitar that turns your leg into a slip and slide and makes the guitar really not want to stay on there. This one is not only thinner, but it also at least feels less rounded on the edges and much more stable when resting on your thigh. It does still have the aesthetic and minimalist design language of an Apple product, which you can love or hate, and I've been very open about the fact that I don't love it myself, but it's their thing, it's recognizable, and it doesn't seem to stop too many people from buying the guitars. If it did, I'm sure they would consider a redesign. If you hate the carbon fiber blend aesthetic that they use, they do make a wooden one with a solid spruce top, but the rest of it, like the sides and the back, are made from HPL, or high pressure laminate, which is basically the same thing as cheap flooring that looks like hardwood but isn't. So I do recommend that you go for the carbon blend one. The actual percentage of carbon fiber in their proprietary blend here is another question. There is definitely a lot of plastic involved here, but this Lava Me Air in space black carbon fiber that I'm holding addresses perhaps the biggest complaint you all had about the previous ones: the price. Because this one doesn't have the same $1,200 to $1,300 price tag as its predecessor. It goes for a mere $450 or 550 euro. An insane price drop in comparison, considering it has largely the same features. How can they afford to make it so much cheaper? Well, it doesn't have two of the key features of the last one. A, you cannot charge it via the wireless charging stand that you just plug into an outlet and then put this one in like a guitar stand. Instead, you have to charge it via USB-C, and it doesn't have the screen on the side. And I love that. If I had gone onto the product page after their social media guy Sean hit me up again and seen a screen on the new model, I wouldn't have given it a second look, and certainly not made a whole new video about it. But the fact that it doesn't have a screen, and instead just 3 physical buttons and one wheel hidden in the sound hole, takes away exactly what I complained about on the Mi 4. The idea of an acoustic guitar with built-in effects and a speaker is awesome. An acoustic that you can build some ethereal soundscape shit with because the sound resonates from inside the body and doesn't need an amp. they had packed the screen UI full of so much unnecessary shit that it was sort of taking away from the experience of using the cool features that it has. Too many cooks spoil the broth, and the Lava Me 4 had 100 fucking cooks to the point where there was no broth because you have to connect the cooks to Wi-Fi and make a social media account for the cooks before they can make the broth. The sounds are awesome. The way that you can chain effects together to basically make a little digital pedal board at the press of a button was also awesome, but the screen is cluttered up with stuff like a practice app and a social media and gallery function. And like I said in the previous video, the practice app doesn't really make that much sense because if you're using something like Musician, that means you can use as cheap of a guitar as you'd like and use the app on your phone. But what beginner has a $1,300 acoustic guitar to practice with? And if you're at the point where you're buying $1,300 acoustic guitars, you are also probably past the point of needing rudimentary practice exercises. And with the Mi Air, all that is technically still available, but you need to open your phone to access it, and it isn't in your face when trying to use the guitar. I said this in the last review. I'm already on my phone too much. I don't need or want my guitar to be phone number 2. And that's exactly what they've solved here. Your guitar is now your guitar, and your phone is your phone. And if you want all of the online features, you can open your device and they are right there, and if not, then there is no HD screen pointing right up at you while playing. You do need to open your phone for it once initially, because you'll notice that the sound will just be very quiet, and you have to crank each effect up once in the app to actually make the sound as room-filling as the previous generation was right out of the box. This takes all of 45 seconds and only needs to be done once. I assume it's just kind of as a safety measure to make sure that the guitar doesn't cause any feedback from the piezo pickup picking up what's coming out of the speaker, but even with everything cranked up, that does not happen at all, like not one bit. The way the buttons work is as follows. You press and hold the outer right one to turn it on, and then each effects preset has one color. You click it once to cycle through the different effects, and the 2 buttons beside the one that glows are used to adjust the effects parameters. Sometimes only one of those will actually do something, sometimes both, just depending on the effect. For example, if you're using the delay, twisting one button adjusts the time, the other adjusts feedback, so how many repetitions the delay has. Get the hang of these controls once, and it's actually way more intuitive than diddling around on a touchscreen, although that is what we're most used to nowadays. But the buttons you actually can control without looking at it, because you can feel where they are, you can feel what you're doing, as opposed to looking down at a screen and doing this, and now you can't hear me because I'm speaking downwards and my mic is there. And while the sound isn't quite as room-filling as that of the previous ones, it's also less than 45% of the price. It doesn't sound very impressive dry though, I do have to say that. Something like the Moore GTRS smart guitars, for example, sounds great with the integrated tones, but the pickups also sound great so that you can use it as a regular guitar, which is what I do most of the time. This is kind of only very fun with the effects engaged. Without them, it's totally good enough to practice with, it's a very, very decent guitar, more than decent actually, it's quite good, but you won't be getting any major compliments for how it sounds. I do love most of the effects though, with the single exception of the pitch shifter. The idea of a pitch shifter is always fun, but it always comes with some degree of latency, unless it's a pedal like the Digitech Drop. In software form though, it is always associated with latency, and there is only one exception to that. Thomas McLaughlin's plugin company Polychrome DSP was the first ever to add a zero latency pitch shifter to their plugins, and they had to start completely from scratch to do it. It just takes some insane processing power to do live pitch shifting, and while the latency here is absolutely minimal, I can feel it and that bugs me. Only goes for that one effect though, the rest is really cool. So overall, what they've done here is they've taken the criticism from everybody online, including that about the price, and made a genuine improvement to the Lava Me series. I didn't mind the last one. I had my issues with it, like I said, and I pointed those out and was not shy about it, but I still thought it was fun to use, although there was that bitter taste of the $1,200 to $1,300 price tag. There is no bitter taste here, only pain in my fingertips from playing acoustic. This, of course, still has its flaws, as does everything, but I have not tried a better acoustic guitar with built-in sounds. These guys know how to incorporate effects into an acoustic. In my giant smart guitar rundown video that I made recently, I showed that it's definitely never been executed better. Not to this extent, at least. Thank you for watching. There is a link in the description, as always, not an affiliate link this time though, if you want to buy your own Lava Me Air. I don't get any fucking commission off of that. They paid me for this video, that's all I'm getting, that's it. Thank you to you for watching, thank you to Lava for making this video possible. I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised, like I said, about how much more usable and fun this thing is than the previous generations. And if you like honest reviews with no bullshit and no lying, and no unnecessary stretching the video past 15 minutes to squeeze another mid-roll ad in, then subscribe, and I will see you around.